Hi, Joe Cerrone. We're going to look at Chapter 4 from AutoCAD and its applications within Module 2. Our learning objectives are to draw circles, arcs, ellipses, polylines, polygons, rectangles, donuts, and splines. And as we look at this, it'll talk about in depth all the different construction techniques for drawing circles. For example, center radius, center diameter, 2-point, 3-point, tangent, tangent, radius, and tangent, tangent. And as we go through and do these exercises, a lot of them are pretty basic. A 2-point circle would basically be constructed by saying 2-point, and then the 2 points will define the diameter of that circle. Or if we want to do a center diameter, we could say here's the center, and then the diameter being 1 inch. Type in 1. Versus a center radius, if I did that and I said that's the center, and then the radius is 1 inch, it'll be twice as big. And that's oftentimes the errors that I'll see in the drawings, is that they'll use radial values instead of diameter values. Three-point would just be 3 points, and tangent, tangent, radius is often used when we have a construction technique that will allow us to go tangent to lines. And so, for example, if I had 2 lines and then I said circle, tangent, tangent, radius, I'd say tangent, tangent, and then we'll say 0.5 for our radius, and it'll create that construction. Same thing. As we look at arcs, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll draw a circle and then I'll just trim it with a line rather than to go through all these different arc construction techniques. There's just a number of different ones, and typically I'll use a 3-point arc, or I'll use a circle and I'll trim it. But circles and arcs are basically located right here, and if we wanted to do a 3-point, we could go and choose first point, second point, and then third point. And then you can click on it and manipulate those geometries with grips. Continue option will allow you to continue within the line command with an arc. Ellipsis, as we go through and we work with ellipsis, there's different types of ellipsis: center, major axis, minor axis. As we look at drawing ellipsis, what we would be looking at doing would be to draw an ellipse, and if we go with center, we'd be talking about the center point, and then the minor axis, and then the major axis, or vice versa. You can specify a rotation option. Polylines are great. As we work with polylines, there is a polyline exercise in Module 4, and polylines allow you to control the width. We used to not have line weights. Now that we have line weights, it's not as important to do lines with widths, but essentially what we're talking about is if I drew a polyline and I click the start point and then I hit the W or width value here, and I say make it a width of 0.5 to start with and 0.25 to end with, we could go and create that geometry. And you can do the same with arcs, where you can start with a width and end with a smaller width. It would just be polyline arc. And so as we go through it, we'd say polyline, click the start point, and then down arrow, A for arc, and then W for width. And then we would basically give it the starting width, 0.25, which you can see down here in the command prompt, and then the ending width maybe 0.15, and that will kind of taper that width off as we go through and work with polylines. Multi-lines we can look at. Oftentimes multi-lines are used for wall sections, and it's just two offset lines. Polygons would be things like a rectangle or a polygon with 5 sides or 6 sides. As we go through and do those constructions, they're fairly obvious. Rectangles. Adding chamfers and rounds, we could create a rectangle or a square as we've done here. Here's a rectangle, and then we can fillet those by programming in a radius. Down arrow radius 0.25 should be fine. Hit enter, and then we'll select those lines, and then we can repeat. And we can do the same with chamfers. The area command allows you to go through and calculate an area of an object. It's a great command. I can go through and I can look at this floor plan, and then I can go through and I can say measure area, and then I could come in here and I could toggle the inside corners of the room, and then I could tell you by hitting enter that that is 36,000 square inches, or 64 feet in perimeter, 255 square feet. So it's great. It works really well for other shapes too. If you create a polygon or a polyline, you can be able to calculate the object's surface area even if it's not square. Rectangle command, rotating. Donuts and filled circles. Most of the time I'll create circles and then I'll just use a hatch pattern now. This is sort of an older command with the donut command, and so if we go and we look at it, I could go and create a circle or a donut. If I say donut, okay, specify inside diameter. If I say 1 and the outside diameter of 2, I can go and click that, and that's 1 inch by 2 inch donut, or 1 inch diameter for the ID and a 2 inch diameter for the OD. Splines. Splines are good for creating certain geometries like graphs and things like that. And that's basically this chapter. We'll be taking a look at the elements for drawing these different geometries within Module 2. We'll be working on these exercises where we'll do this mechanical plate, and we'll also take a look at an architectural drawing like this floor plan. That completes this lecture of Chapter 4.